Thank you for checking out the Sportsline Podcast on CHCH.com or Parrot TV. I'm Bubba O'Neill. As you know, we love speaking about amazing sports stories from Southern Ontario, and in particular, the Golden Horseshoe. And as this podcast has proven, there are so many. So much so that today we'll be slipping into a roundtable format because what's going on in the local, national, and international sports world has recently gone wild. As we've done in the past, let's open the microphone to two good friends of the Sportsline Podcast. Of course, from Morning Live, our Morning Live and Newsmakers guy, yes. Rick Zamperin.
Thank you. Thanks. It's great to be here.
And from a new inhabitant into the CHCH building.
Yeah.
From the Hamilton Spectator, Mr. Columnist of Hamilton, of all things, news and sports, Scott Radley. How are you?
Thank you. Very good. And this is more of a triangle table, isn't it?
It is a bit of a triangle.
One more. Circle, we have a round table.
Circle. We're all kind of squares.
Yeah.
In a way, you know what I mean? Hey, thanks for joining us here on the Sportsline Podcast, guys, because as I said, and I laid out in the beginning, there is a lot to talk about. And really a lot of it local, which is where I bring you guys in here, and I think it's great to talk about these things. So let's start off right off the top. And as Scott Radley reported many weeks ago, and of course reminded us this week, that the PWHL was coming to Hamilton and got it a little bit on a little tip from the mayor, who might have maybe had loose lips. And let's go to the honest truth of what we could be seeing here in Hamilton. Scott Radley, the PWHL, Hamilton, is it a reality? Will it work?
So just to clarify, didn't get it from the mayor, although her comments added to, so we'd heard it from other people, but her comments, and for people who didn't see it, she was at the mayor's breakfast and was saying the AHL is back, and that's not all for hockey, there might be more, or something to that effect, which is like, oh, you know, we're not getting the NHL, and we're not getting an OHL team again because of Brantford. So could it work? Yes, I do think so. I have, and the big reason I think it will work around here for a couple of reasons. One is it's still enough of a novelty that a lot of people will come and check it out. And assuming the hockey is of good enough quality, the people who come to sample it, you can get people into the building at the start. Now you as a league and as players have to sell the people on what you're giving them. Because I think it'll work for the first couple, 3 years, assuming it's coming, which we believe it is. I think it'll work for the first 2 or 3 years as women want to come out and support this new league, and girls and their dads or girls and their moms will come out. But at some point, you have to sell the product. And if they can do that, absolutely, I think it'll work.
Rick?
I'm of the same mind. I think in the first, maybe even 5 years, the novelty effect will certainly be there. Whether you've never been to a PWHL or you want to support women's professional sports, which is exploding at the moment, you're going to go to the games. Maybe you haven't been to the new arena yet, so that's another reason to go. I think long term, though, and with any professional league, and we saw that in the infancy of the NHL. I mean, you name the major professional sports leagues now, there was teams moving, folding, expansion all the time. And right now, PWHL's in grow mode, just like the WNBA, still growing, right? So I think in its infancy, this team will definitely work. I think there's going to be thousands of fans that come out each every day to go check out the games. 5 years plus, it's going to come down to the product. How good is the team? Because once you get the fan base in, now it's going to be, okay, show me the championship, show me the victories. We want to cheer on a winner.
Go back and, just for a second, go back and watch your CHCH coverage from January 3rd when the Takeover Tour came to Hamilton. And I know people talking to the Spec, and I know people talking to CHCH were saying, oh, I drove here from North Bay, I drove here from wherever. So again, you will get people to come and check it out. But if they come a couple times and go, oh, okay, are they going to make the effort? Like people in Saskatchewan will drive 6 hours to go to a Rough Riders game because they love the product. You can get the sampler plate. This is why Costco has samples, right? You give them a sample and you hope that they like it and go to the freezer and grab a package of the thing. But if they don't like it, it doesn't matter how much of a novelty it is. In time, it'll wear off. So it's going to be on the league to grow properly, not to expand too quickly. So you water it down.
Well, it's going to do that. We've got 4 teams. It sounds like.
Yeah, but you better keep it at that for a while. As opposed to going, hey, 4 worked and we've got 10 other cities that want us. Let's add 4 more in 2 years. You got to make sure this is a good product, that it's being run properly, that the officiating is at a good level, that everything, if it comes together, it'll work. But it's got to come together.
The other thing too is, you have a PWHL team in Toronto.
Yep.
So yes, instant rivalry, but also competition as well, right? They have their fan base.
Can I open that up, though?
Yeah, okay.
Just not to cut you off there, because many of the things, I mean, my timeline on X has gone wild. But that is what you're leading to. I'm going to open it up to Ottawa, because people are saying 3 teams in Ontario, it's ridiculous.
Well, just like the CFL, right? So there's a certain, you're going to have a fan base, but you're not going to be grabbing Scepter's fans to come see your product, whatever the Hamilton team is going to be called, on a regular basis. They'll certainly come here when Toronto's playing Hamilton, of course, but if Hamilton's playing Minnesota or Boston or Vancouver, are Scepter's fans going to make that travel as well? I don't know. Maybe in the first couple of years, just to check out the stadium again, what this team is all about. Maybe there's some Toronto athletes on the Hamilton team, and that will convince them to come down the highway. But there is going to be competition now between these two franchises for ticket buyers.
And that game on January 3rd, how many people in the stands were wearing Scepter's gear? A lot.
Right.
Now, were they just people who decided, I love the PWHL, so I'm going to buy a jersey? I've never seen it, but I love the concept. Or were they Scepter's fans because it was a Scepter's regular season game who drove down, who you wouldn't get? So I don't expect, honestly, that they will get 16,000 every game.
No.
I think that's a number that is pie in the sky.
But can they do what Toronto's doing, and that's putting in 9,000?
I think so. I think they can.
Right?
I think they can.
Because I think a lot of people are somewhat forgetting, because I think everyone is saying, oh, Hamilton's not a sports town. Hamilton doesn't support. I mean, these are, again, all things I'm getting on my timeline. But are we also showing some disrespect to people in Kitchener-Waterloo, Niagara region? I mean, we're looking at a very, very big, and yes, Toronto, kind of proper, taking care of Toronto, in my opinion. But we're looking at I think a huge band of population here in Southern Ontario, and in particular the Golden Horseshoe.
Without a doubt. And another thing too is this is going to put pressure on the league, because when you expand, you need more players, just like the NHL has, just like other leagues have, and there is a little bit of a watered down effect when you get to the 3rd and the 4th line, the 6th pair of defensemen, even the backup goalie. Like, from a league perspective, their development program is going to have to keep pace with the expansion.
And you also, and this is going to be a thing, I know we're probably going to talk about this a little later in the show, I expect, but you also now have the Toronto Rock playing in that arena. You have an AHL team that's going to be playing in that arena. You have concerts in that arena. And now you will potentially have a PWHL team. Scheduling is going to be a big thing. What days can you get for games? For the same reasons we're just talking about, you just raised. This is not just going to be drawing from Hamilton. You're going to be drawing from Niagara and Kitchener and maybe London and wherever else, although there's a team in Detroit, so London fans may go either way.
Yeah.
But if you're playing on Wednesday nights, are you getting the 10-year-old girls on a school night with their parents coming from Kitchener? You need to have a good regular home night or home afternoon, whatever it is, that can allow for people out of town, because a lot of your market is going to be out of town, that can get here and make it in time for a game and want to come and not go, oh, I'm not sure if I can go this night because we got stuff going on. Scheduling is going to be a big deal for this team.
It's a good thing about this league that I think it's less than 20 home dates.
15.
Is it 15? So there you go, 15
plus
home dates.
Playoffs and preseason.
So just regular season though, 15 home dates. Is that too much to ask?
Well, when you put 15 with 40 some odd in the AHL, and then however many they play in the National Lacrosse League, right, like 6, 8, now you're in a scheduling snafu when you add the concerts in too. So, this is going to be, we can't.
Everybody wants weekends.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, there's a lot of nervous and doubting Thomases, as I said, at least on my timeline when this was all brought up. One of them being, from the Toronto Sun and Sun Media, would be Steve Simmons. And I just want to show you a couple of tweets that came across. Is that, that's not the first one. If we can get to the first one, please. There we go. The PWHL has not made many mistakes in its young history, but the idea of expanding to Hamilton, where hockey team after hockey team has died over the years, makes little sense to me. I replied and then followed up by, earlier AHL teams couldn't draw flies when Copps Coliseum was a decent facility. Owners bailed mid-season. You forgot that? And that's to me. Your comments, guys.
You know what? You look at the ownership factor, and we had, from the AHL standpoint, the Habs, which are an historic organization, the Edmonton Oilers, and I thought in their tenure they did a wonderful job. But at the end of the day, yeah, when you're playing a Wednesday or a Thursday night and there's 4,000 fans in the stands,
2,000
or 2,000, 4,000 is probably a good night.
Yeah,
that's not sustainable long term, right? So these franchises have to make these critical decisions. Now, in Montreal's case, they wanted ultimately their farm team to be closer to Montreal. Now they have
that's the only reason they left.
Right. Edmonton, their farm team is not in Canada, but it's on the West Coast, right? So the proximity to those two franchises is much closer. And at the end of the day, that hurt Hamilton.
It forced me to do some research. Over the time of the AHL Bulldogs, average audience around the league ranged from 4,500 to 5,500. In the entire length of the AHL Hamilton Bulldogs, just very close to 4,900. I don't think that's too bad.
Yeah. They were kind of in the middle of the pack.
Yeah, and you have exceptions. You have the unicorns like Hershey that always does really, really well, and a few other places that like bring that average up. There are teams that are getting 2,400 or 2,500 in there too. So,
Bridgeport.
Well, Bridgeport has, and there are others as well. But there's also the situation where Steve is not wrong in the sense that there have been, especially OHL. There were the Fin Cups. Now that was a thing with an arena situation, but there were the Dukes of Hamilton. That was like there have been teams that have not done well here and that have left or that have shut down or whatever else. So the AHL had a continuity. But don't forget, even in that continuity, it started out as, well, there were the Canucks here first, they left. Then there was the Oilers, which then became the Oilers and the Tampa Bay Lightning, which then became the Oilers and the Dallas Stars, which then became the Oilers and Montreal Canadiens. So you had a team, but there was moving parts. And had you not had people around here like Michael Andlauer who were determined to keep the team, that team could have been gone a long time ago. So he's not wrong in the sense that I don't think any team in Hamilton, and I hate to say this as someone who loves the city, I don't think there's such a thing in this city as a guaranteed, surefire, will work, no questions asked, put all the money you've ever owned on a bet on that. I don't think you can do that. I don't think you could do that in the NHL in this city, only because if we had an NHL team when Jim Balsillie bought the team, and he ran into some, Blackberry went down, who knows where we would. If we had the NHL team that Ottawa got, would they still be here because of costs and everything else? So I don't say it's a sure thing, but I think this one's a decent bet.
One last thing on this. Hasn't Hamilton changed? And I agree. Like Steve's right about, a lot of that stuff to me is in the past. I feel like the demographics, the population basis, the growth of Hamilton and beyond has changed that. And yes, there have been failures, no doubt about it. There was failures in Toronto with the Roadrunners, right? That didn't work. Why can't it be a slam dunk in an area, like I've repeated, that's so big, that's got a lot of money, right? I just can't see it not working.
I think it comes down to two main things, and that's number one, ownership. If you have a committed ownership group that is here for the highs and the lows, and you have a product that is priced right for this community, that's different from Toronto, because the economies and the economics are different, I think it'll work long term. As long as that ownership structure is in place, committed to Hamilton long term, I think it'll work.
One quick thing on this, and it's kind of the same thing, but I'll ask it in a different way. We're talking about two teams all together, and this our new AHL franchise, which is going to happen, the PWHL, which appears to be imminent. Can the two work together, Rick? Can the two? And I know we talked about scheduling, but in terms of interest, like fan support, just splitting it right down the middle, and as you said, add in a lacrosse team as well too. The concerts, can it work?
I'm intrigued to see. Yes, the short answer is yes. I think it can work. I'm intrigued to see, because they're going to share the same facility, because they play the same sport, PWHL, AHL. Will there be some synergies? Will there be some cross promotions? Will there be things that they both do together? I don't know. That remains to be seen. But at the end of the day, the prices have to be different in terms of ticket prices. The product, though, has to be the same in terms of quality. You want to go to the arena, you want to be entertained, you want to go back. So what's on the ice has to be the best that any given night or any given weekend.
I think competition is good. I think it's like the New York Islanders farm team that's coming here missed the playoffs 3 years and then bowed out in a sweep in the first round this year. They have not been a good product. They can't come to Hamilton and expect that we're going to continue to miss the playoffs and be a middling or poor team. And now that there's another option, that we're going to keep going with that and have any success. So that's a good thing. It's going to force them, hopefully, to up their game. And it'll force the PWHL team to also say, we got to make sure that we're putting every effort and everything into making this go. If they do, I was looking up this week, the 2 years ago when Toronto moved into Coca-Cola Coliseum, when the Scepters moved into Coca-Cola Coliseum, the Marlies were already there. The Marlies attendance was it went down by, I think, 30 fans a game. So it made no impact, which looks like you may have two completely different demographics as far as men's hockey and women's hockey. At least that's Toronto's example. But I'm going to go back to what Rick just said. If one of these teams comes in and wets the bed, or is terrible, or looks like they don't know what they're doing, or looks like the effort is not being put in, or it's being taken for granted or something, no promises that this works for that team that looks like they are not pulling their weight.
Is this fair to say that with the PWHL team, whatever it's called, if it's coming, would benefit from the fact that there might be, and I don't know what the studies would prove here, and I think only the people in the PWHL could even come close to giving me an answer, that there's an LGBTQ plus community that would support the PWHL team, maybe some more so than the AHL team?
I think there's maybe a better chance of the women's version being a more popular choice because from a professional sporting perspective, women's sports has been greatly underserved. We haven't had these pro leagues forever and ever. We've had, men's professional leagues for decades now, and they've been obviously very popular. But yeah, from that community, they might hop on to say, hey, this is something new, something we can get behind, and I could see it being a big hit.
I mean, I wasn't at the game. I watched it on TV, but I wasn't at that game. But I was told that more people went to see that game than they've seen a game in Hamilton in years.
Yeah,
from that community.
And I think that community, and again, I think like little girls with their mom or with their dad who are young hockey players, who I think there's lots of, it's the same with any sport, any team. You can find a market that you want to target and say, this is for you. And the question is that what's going to work? Well, again, I would suspect that you will see the PWHL has been successful thus far at finding the market to come to their games. They've done well. The sport is up 71% in attendance from the first year, or the last 2 years, I think it is. So,
I liken this, whatever we're going to see, I liken it to, if they will probably follow it, what the Ticats and more in particular what Forge FC has done, right? A newer franchise, they're trying to find their niche. I think they have done so, and they've been very successful on the field. That certainly helped, attendance-wise, but they're going to have to get creative in terms of, these school day games and getting kids and schools and parents with their kids involved in watching the sport.
Great stuff, guys. April 28th, a shocker comes down from the Canadian Football League, where the commissioner and the Canadian Football League announce a new playoff format. We have been talking about divisions changing, going to one division. I don't know if this is what solves everything, but does this work for you, Scott Radley, this new format? It has not been tried, and you mix it in with all the other changes that are going to happen in 2026 and 2027, at least proposed. Does this blow your mind?
Isn't this, well, you say it hasn't been tried. What do you call that format in curling? The page or whatever
playoff, yes.
Where you can be knocked out but not knocked out, and you get a. To me, okay, there's a couple things. First of all, let's not kid ourselves. This is entirely about money.
Yes.
This is entirely about creating more playoff games. 6 teams now will have a home playoff game every year. So that's putting money in the pocket of the owners. And some people say, well, this league needs that, so why is that a problem? Because we want to keep this league going. All right. The only other part about this that not the only other part, one other part that I don't like about this is the fact that football, of all the sports, you got to be ready to play every game. And if you aren't ready to play every game, the best team in the league can be knocked out. And we saw it like the Super Bowl when the Patriots played the Giants. Patriots were undefeated.
Yep.
And that one day the Giants knocked them out. The Patriots don't get a do-over. Because you want to know something? If you gave the Patriots another game, they probably go on and win that Super Bowl.
Both years.
Yeah.
I hate the idea that in football, a team, even if you finish first and that's your reward, that you could lose a playoff game and be rewarded with a second crack at it. That part, Rick, I hate.
Yeah, the mulligan aspect to me, especially in football, because we've grown up with one and done. Like if you don't win, you're going home any particular Sunday or Saturday, wherever whenever the playoff game is happening. The part of this whole new format that I don't like is 8 of 9 teams getting in.
Right.
Remember the old 21 team?
That one for you.
Remember the 21 team National Hockey League where 16 of 21 got in, and I think we all thought, well, that's a lot. That's well over 50%. And now 8 of 9, one team is going to miss the playoffs. I don't think that's a big enough emphasis on the importance of the regular season. And I think if you're a fan, you're kind of losing that kind of luster of every game matters. And even in the CFL, though, I know there's 18 games and you can start 0-8 and still make the playoffs. Now you can start maybe 0-12 and still make the playoffs. I mean, to me, it seems to be a little too much. I'd be okay if it was 8 of 10. 8 of 12 for sure. We're not going to have 12 franchises in the CFL.
I'd go the other way.
We might get 10.
I'd just make it 4 teams that make the playoffs.
And that's it.
And if you want more playoff games, have the double knockout like they used to, the 2-game total points or something.
But here's the thing, too. If you want only 4 playoff teams, now you're 0-8 and the season's over. Like you have 8 more games to play or 10 more games to play, and no one's going to go to the game because your season's already done. So I get the double-edged sword, but to have 8 of 9 is way too much.
What they should have done, because, now, as Rick says, you could be out of the playoffs late, but you could have locked up a playoff spot by July, basically.
Very true.
What you got to do, and I say this with my tongue in my cheek, although only partially, we need a relegation system. If you're the 9th team, you're so bad.
I love this.
You are bumped down to U Sports for the next year, and the team that wins U Sports gets to come in and play in the CFL. Make it matter. Make it miserable for the team that or there's a penalty of some kind. In the next year, that finishing 9th, you don't get the first draft pick. You miss your first round draft pick.
The penalty for finishing 9th in the CFL, where 8 teams make the playoffs, everyone should be fired.
Or that. There should be some kind of thing.
You can't finish 9th.
I think the penalty is you don't make the playoffs.
Yeah, but the point is, even when 6 teams get a playoff home date, there's everybody's. So there's got to be. It's not even like finishing 7th or 8th. There's got to be something there besides humiliation that says it's really, really, really meaningful. Because look, if you're coming down the stretch and you've got 3 wins, and you're looking up at the standings, if the CFL thinks that like some 3-15 team is going to go on a heater in the playoffs and win the Grey Cup, it's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. There's a reason they're 3-15, and it's not 1 game you have to win; it's 4. Why make it? Put something punitive in place that says you will pay a price if you finish 9th.
How many times, Rick, have you and I talked on Ticats Audio Network to former players like Simone Lawrence and Matt Buckner, Fantus, you can go on and on, Morelli, that getting that bye for finishing first. Because we always rest or rust, and we debated as fans and media people. The players always say rest. Give me that week off. So now you got to play 18 games and then play the first place team. Like you could be all banged up, and then you get the week off. It just doesn't seem like where's the reward?
Yeah, the reward is for that first place team, and I would have rather had 7 teams make the playoffs. That first team overall gets a bye, and then the other 6 duke it out for semifinal appearances or whatever the case is. Now you're giving an award for that first place team, whether you're in the East Division or the West Division. So I think I would have rather the CFL gone that way. But yeah, now you are, if you finish first, and let's say you've rested your players the last 4 weeks, and now there's a rust factor when you're playing the second place team in your division, and if you lose it, now you got to play seeds 5 through 8. But yeah, there's no reward really for that first place team other than you're hosting a playoff game, and if you lose it, you get a mulligan.
Why did they do this?
Money.
It's totally money.
It's all money. It's 100% money to have more playoff dates. But what we're going to see, and what's going to be really interesting, and I think I'm sure the Board of Governors will review this after next year. Will squeezing the extra playoff date out of fans lead more fans to not come to regular season games because they go, it's not as important because I know we're getting into the playoffs. And also, let me point out one other thing. I forgot about this one. I also really am questioning, and we're going to see, and I may be totally wrong on this one. You tell me. I think that the idea they've put in to say we're loading up long weekends in the summer, that's when all of our every time there's a long weekend, we're having all of our teams play. Isn't that when people go to the cottage and go camping and go away? To me, I would go the other way. I would say long weekends, our games are Wednesdays and Thursday nights, so you're clear after the weekend.
Right.
But I don't know, maybe I'm reading that wrong.
Yeah, they're really making, I think, and this is not all fans, but it's a good chunk of fans, they're making them decide whether to spend their money on a CFL game or spend their money on a camping trip or going on a road trip somewhere, right? And so some fans might say, forget the CFL game this week, we'll go next month. So there's a lost opportunity for that CFL team to get that fan once again hooked on the product.
Final thing on this. Because of this playoff change, and again, the proposed changes that we're going to see this year, is it just too much, Rick? Like, is it too much for even the CFL purists, people that love the game?
Yeah.
Who are fighting it back against, many of the old timers are fighting back against these changes and the goalposts coming in and the smaller end zones.
Right.
Is it just too much for really a one-year period?
In a short period of time?
Yeah, in a short period of time.
I think for the diehard fans, they're all in, right? Like, you're not going to lose many of those, although, we've heard from diehard fans, especially with the goalposts and the field shortening and the end zone being scrunched. Like, a lot of diehards are like, you're killing the game, or you're changing the game. It's too Americanized.
Some people say they're not getting their season tickets.
Well, yeah, I've heard that. And they might get a single game ticket or a flex pack instead of, a bigger financial commitment for the whole season. But whether it's too much all at once, I don't know. From the CFL perspective, you're in a dogfight with not necessarily the NFL, but I know it is the same sport, but all these other pro sports leagues that are, trying to grab a piece of that financial pie from the fans' discretionary income. So, yeah, at the end of the day, the CFL has to try something different in terms of getting more fans, getting younger fans, and this might be how to do it. We'll see if it works at the end of the season.
At the end of the year, next year probably, or the year after, give it a couple of years probably, we are going to either be sitting here for a review saying we were right, the CFL blew it, or we're going to be sitting here and saying Stuart Johnson was the most forward-thinking, visionary commissioner the league has ever had.
Right, it's a great
point. This
point.
stuff worked, and he saved the league.
That's a great point.
And so we will see. But look, we can have our opinions. We got to give it time to see how it's going to go.
Yeah,
I have my doubts, but I am more than happy. I like this. I love this league. I want this league to succeed. I'm more than happy to be wrong on this and say, you know what, Commissioner Johnson, you figured it out. You nailed it. The league is better for your changes. And if he does, I will be the first one sitting here saying that. But we'll see in 2 or 3 years.
Well, a lot of us, the three of us here, are generally at the games, at least in the Ticats games. Let's just hope that a TV contract gets taken care of, because that's they're cutting this really close without some kind of announcement on where the games are going to be, or are people going to have to? I got to ask this question: if the game ends up being on TSN, maybe some on Sportsnet, or some on Fubu or DAZN, are Canadians prepared, and of course I can answer the question for the Americans, are Canadians prepared to play or pay for the CFL to watch the product?
Again, diehards, yeah. If you're a fair weather fan, no way. And the other thing too is and even with this playoff format, you're going to have some fans thinking, when are the games? How does this playoff format work? And if there is any sort of question marks, they're going to be thinking, why am I a fan? Why am I investing my time and energy in this? So there's a certain amount of time where the league has to simplify things in terms of making it easy for the fans to find their games, to understand how the games work or how the playoff system works. So there's going to be an adjustment period for sure.
If you're TSN, and I've never had to run a TV enterprise, unlike you two executives, but if I'm TSN and suddenly only half the games are on my network, am I spending as much on my studio show, on my staff, on my play-by-play people? You may water it down. So now TSN doesn't do as good a job, because right now they've got everything, so they can concentrate on it. But now if we've only got half, well, we may only need half the number of people. Are we going to pay all those people? And who's the other station that comes in? Are they going to pay big money, or is it going to be like a, half-baked job to try and just get the? Right now, this is not the NFL with 32 teams. Right. This is a 9-team league with 4 games a week, sometimes 3. I don't see how you spread this thing out too much and not risk making it a less of a product.
I believe that it was sometime in the middle of, or at least the beginning of November, and we were in our glee. Also, a lot of sadness, but really in our glee. The Blue Jays go to the World Series, go to Game 7, are within a million plays of winning it, right? So many plays of winning it. Let's go to where we are right now as of taping. This team is 16-21, fourth place in the American League East. Look at the standings there. We haven't even reached, we're in the beginning of May and the Yankees are running away. Tampa are running away. No, who expected any of this? We always get into the discussion, it's early. Scott Radley, is it still too early?
It's early, and we saw last year, and we saw in 2015 when, a trade deadline or later they made a big run and they caught up. And the Jays have to be the happiest franchise in baseball for the expanded wild card, because I think they're still only like a game or a game and a half out of a wild card spot. So they're fine. In the modern baseball standings, they are fine. But I'll point to this thing. The one guy on this team, when we talk about early, I did some math yesterday because, why not? Vladimir Guerrero, you know how much he makes per game with his new contract?
Too much right now.
$220,000 US per game. Yeah. What's that, 300,000 Canadian?
It's a lot.
And he has 2 home runs. And I know people say, oh, he's a slow starter, and oh, he'll get hot. Vlad might want to look, he's the guy who carries his team. He might want to look at those standings and say, it's time to start making some of that $300,000 a game.
But he's batting like, isn't he almost leading the league in batting average?
He's like 315 or something, and I think he's got 12 or 15 RBI. Like it's another, like always, incredibly slow start. The problem is this year, here's the other thing the Blue Jays are very fortunate about. I think there's 4 teams in the American League that have a winning record.
I think 2.
2 or 4, whatever it is. If there was 1 or 2 other teams in the league that were hot, the Blue Jays are suddenly in trouble. And if another team gets hot and the Blue Jays don't warm up pretty soon, they are in trouble. It's time to start playing.
Yeah, well, Yankees and Rays have been hot. Right, like the way the Rays, I think, have won 10 of 11. They've won like 10 in a row at home. Yankees have gone on some, long winning streaks. The wild card is still a factor, obviously, for the Jays, but they got to start piling some wins together here, right? Like they just got swept in Tampa. Tampa's Death Valley for the Blue Jays.
Always.
Like I think they're 50 and 101 or something like that. Like it's just insane the amount of losses.
38% over the franchise history, 380 winning percentage in the Trop.
It's insane.
Makes no sense.
Tampa Bay's had some good teams, but like the Jays have had some pretty good teams too. So that number just is astounding. But the Jays, listen, they got it. Certainly every team has injuries. The Jays have had some. They're trying to get through that. Addison Barger's coming back. That might be a big boost. But at the end of the day, they got to start hitting, right? 4 hits the other day, just not good enough. And that's been almost a common denominator for every series that they've been in. 1 or 2 games, they just haven't done anything. Pitching, they've gotten some guys back, but now they got to start to get the ball rolling here.
I see some issues. I mean, it's funny because we talked about the depth at the starting pitching position, and I don't think that's the worry. I mean, you do bring that up, that offense spread throughout. I mean, look, we got a leadoff hitter that is playing with a broken toe. Vladimir Guerrero Jr. his average is where you want it to be, but 2 home runs.
Are you paying him to be Ichiro, or are you paying him to be Aaron Judge?
Great question.
Right, and he's Ichiro right now. He's hitting for a high average, but he's not.
But Judge hits for average and home runs. Yeah. Why can't he be that guy? Did we not see the best of Vladimir Guerrero Jr. in the postseason?
He was one of the best players. Yeah, it was him and Ernie Clement. Right, pitching was outstanding. Trey Savage was probably the runaway guy for postseason Cy Young if they handed out an award like that. They were rolling. Ernie Clement was unbelievable. He had set a postseason record for the number of hits. Like they had clutch hits in key times. They were a team to be reckoned with. Okay,
I'm glad you're just laying this out because this guy over here in a text to me when it was that what we saw. You didn't say this was for sure. Did we get fooled? By a team that just got hot.
Last year, everything came together. Like, Ernie Clement is a major league player. I don't know that Ernie Clement is a major league star.
Right.
All right, he is a bona fide player who can play in the major leagues, but is he a guy who's going to do what he did in the playoffs consistently? No way. Barger is a major league player, no question. Is he a guy who's going to do what he did in the playoffs? I don't know. What's his name? Catcher who's been out.
Alejandro Kirk.
Yes. Is Alejandro Kirk a guy who's one of the hottest hitters in baseball over the course of a year? I don't think so. You can go down the list. Those guys all caught fire, and it was fantastic. But now you've got the flip side where none of that is happening, and there's nobody carrying that team. And, the third baseman.
Yeah.
Okamoto, who's been
very impressive.
Tremendous.
Yeah,
He's been really good. But even then, you would think, okay, so last year somebody got going, and then I'd start hitting, and then it would be contagious, and Rick would catch on, and then you'd say, Okamoto's hitting. Where's the rest of the lineup catching that contagiousness, that contagion? They're not.
Do you believe it? Is that possible that we were not fooled, but?
Listen, I think the Jays' last postseason caught lightning in a bottle.
Absolutely.
A little bit, right? When you look at the players that, and it seemed like every guy in the lineup and the pitching staff and the bullpen they're all pulling the rope. When the chips were down, they were making some big plays. And they almost did so in Game 7, whether it was, in the 8th or 9th innings or even in the extra innings. Stuff almost happened in that game. They could have legitimately been a World Series winner. But now nothing seems to be going right. It's the polar opposite.
Could there be a possibility that the manager is under pressure? I mean,
didn't he just sign a brand new contract?
It's short, though. It's short. It's a 2-year thing.
Yeah, but in saying that, how many? Even in the last playoffs, there were moves that he made that we questioned, and sometimes they didn't work, and sometimes they did. I don't think he's under any more pressure than anybody else to do what
Watkins and Shapiro aren't under pressure. They signed big deals.
Huge deal. So, I don't know if there is some kind of World Series loss hangover or playoff hangover with this team, but they have not recaptured the magic that they had.
I'd love to know, and you could ask this of any athlete, but okay, so when you were in the playoffs and when you were coming down the stretch, was it that there was so much focus? You were so locked in because you were so focused, and there was such a, the intensity and everything else just caused me to laser focus. Is that why Vlad could hit everything, Clement? And if that's the case, where is that focus now? Why are you not able to focus now? Because you're not doing any of it. Is it? And I don't know the answer to this one. I'm throwing. Is it too loose in the locker room? Does Schneider need to come in and throw some stuff around and have a fit and, create some havoc and say, guys, enough of this? Or, we saw a few years ago where they took the home run jacket away because it was too loose, and you traded away a great player, Teoscar Hernandez, because they didn't want the loosey. I don't know, but there's something that is so far from last fall to where they are. It's a cosmic change where nobody. I shouldn't say that. There are some pitchers.
Hoffman's a disaster. We saw the worst of, it was horrible to watch.
We saw signs of that last year, too. There was a lot of blown saves last year, even in the playoffs, where he just could not close the door. But you see the guys that they brought in. I'm a big fan of Dylan Cease.
He's great.
He's had an outstanding start to the season. I think, the injury situation with Savage is unfortunate. I know he's come back, and he's working his way through it, and had a couple of good outings.
I was pumped to see Ponce, too.
Yeah, exactly. And, he's out for a while, but Gausman, I think, still solid. So they have pieces. They just have to come together.
But even Savage, do you truly believe in your heart of hearts that the Trey Savage that we saw in the playoffs last year, where he was setting records for strikeouts and nobody could touch him, do you really believe that's who he is, that he's a modern-day Roger Clemens who's just on the precipice, or is he going to be a good major league pitcher, but that was, as you say, lightning in a bottle? I think it's the latter.
It's true. The sample size was so small. I mean,
he was a fantastic
3 regular season starts and then the playoffs, and that overhand slot that he throws from. That guys are going to sort of figure that out eventually. I would guess.
He was magnificent, but I just don't know that that's something you can do all the time.
Yeah. About 6 weeks ago, Maple Leaf Sports and Entertainment President and CEO Keith Pelley said that he was about to make the most important hire of his early tenure at MLS and E. Things were very quiet about the new general manager. Brad Treliving fired as a general manager. They were looking for something, changes in the hockey ops department, and they hired John Chayka, a former general manager with the Arizona Coyotes, and in his first executive role in the National Hockey League, Matt Sundin, one of the great captains of the franchise, all-time leading scorer. There was a press conference, a surprise press conference, in which drew all kinds of attention and some criticism. We've brought his name up earlier. I will bring him back. Steve Simmons asked a question to Keith Pelly that I think has become not only famous in our area, but I saw reports about this North America. Let's roll the question, please.
In the past, say, 3 to 4 days, I have been in contact with about 20 people who work in the National Hockey League, many of whom are prominent names that we would all know. And of the 20 people I spoke to, one was supportive of John's hiring, and the other 19 thought it was a sham, to be perfectly honest. Words were used like con artist, liar, salesman. How did you come to a different conclusion that I was able to come to in a very short time?
I must have talked to different people.
That's it? Because I'm telling you, the hockey world today is astounded by this announcement.
Okay.
And your response to that?
Is we've conducted due diligence, and it was deep due diligence. It was a thorough process, and I'm quite happy with where we've landed.
Scott, I want to start with you because you share the same profession as Mr. Simmons. The criticism was on both sides here. It was really interesting to see. There were a lot of people thought that Steve Simmons was out of line for asking this question. There were a lot of people saying, thank God we had a press conference where a real question got answered, was proposed. Your thoughts on that whole situation and the sort of journalistic look at it?
So I have no problem with the question at all, because again, I think that was, if you had asked people outside the arena who are Leaf fans, what are you thinking about this? That's almost exactly the way they would have asked the question if they had had a chance to do so. But the other thing that struck me, and I didn't hear anyone say this, but the thing that struck me about this right off the bat was, did many people find that question shocking? Yeah, many people said that was a really tough question. So that would suggest to me that things are not shocking if they happen all the time. That was an uncommon question. We hear constantly how it's so hard to play in Toronto. The media is so hard on us. It's so much pressure. That question was shocking because that kind of question never gets asked. It's not that hard to play in Toronto. You are, as Mitch Marner once said, you're a god. People often talk to you with such delicate questions, and after a game, how are you doing? How do you feel after that loss? Someone asked a shockingly hard question, which just showed how rarely those kind of questions get asked here. You don't think that gets asked in New York to the Yankees if they hire a general manager with the same background? What was the guy's name? You would know. The soccer, when England hired a Swedish coach to be the head of the national team.
Sven
Eriksson. You don't think the English press lost their mind that we're hiring a non-Englishman to coach our national team? Here, we don't know what hard is. These players don't know what hard is, and so this, to me, highlighted that point, that it's pretty, I won't say easy, there's a lot of pressure, but they're not treated poorly here most of the time, and that question to me showed it.
Yeah. I didn't have a problem with the question either. This is the head of MLSE. He was making the decision. And there's a certain amount of accountability that comes with that role and with the decision that he's making. So to hold his feet to the fire, to say, hey, everyone outside this building in the hockey world says this is probably not a good hire. What are you guys doing? Like, this house is, on fire. So I appreciated the question. It was really a breath of fresh air to say, hey, everyone else thinks this is a big red flag. What are you doing?
Is it just me or did Keith Pelly look incredibly uncomfortable?
Oh yeah, and that's another point. Let me make one more point on this, and I want you to jump in. Yeah. Let me make one other point. When Austin Matthews went down with that knee injury, when he took the knee-on-knee hit, and there was such outrage around Leafland that no Leaf came to his defense. All right, now you've got your new general manager sitting there. And it's the same thing only in press conference form. Someone comes after him, and you could say he takes a cheap shot. And what does the head of MLSE do? Does he rise to his defense and go, Steve, we did this guy's this, we did this? Nothing. It was the exact executive equivalent of not jumping on the guy who just cheap shotted your captain. It's an organization-wide and deep malaise that they have, and you show it right from here. It's not just on the ice, it's off the ice. Doesn't matter. Yeah. Do whatever, and we're fine.
Yeah. It's a great point because whether it was Pelly, Sundin is not going to do that because that's just not his MO. That's not in his DNA. And I almost expected Chayka to say, hey, wait a minute, I made some mistakes. And he kind of said this in his preamble, which was all written. And it's
that in itself was weird.
Yeah, I found that weird too. I know you kind of make a prepared statement, but usually leave it really short and then get into your history. Like he knows his own history. So I thought John was going to say, hey, I paid my dues. I paid my penalty. I'm thrilled to be here. We're going to try to make this team into a winner and a Stanley Cup champion eventually. But yeah, no one kind of did anything other than Pelly saying, we did our due diligence.
It was about the worst answer to that question you could have. Because again, if someone's coming at you with a 100-mile-an-hour question, you got to at least swing back with a 100-mile-an-hour swing.
Yeah.
And
his exit velocity was 20 kilometers an hour.
Yes, that's exactly what it was. That's exactly what it was. And look, I'm going to be fascinated to see what Sundin's role in this really is, because your first reaction, and look, I know that he is a very smart guy, and people around him. I was on a radio station I was listening where they said, Mats has great ideas, and so let's trust that that's the case, because I hope that he is not here simply as a human shield for the organization, because you can't
figurehead.
You can't criticize Mats.
Right?
Well, you can't criticize Mats. We put on the draft lottery whose face was on there. It was Mats. Right, so you can criticize it, but as soon as we throw Mats in front of you, now it's got to temper the questions.
Well, by taking this job, is he putting it his legacy on the line here?
I think that was one of the questions that was asked, really, in terms of his legacy. I don't think so. He's not an executive. This is his first.
He is now.
Well, he is now, but he hasn't been. So this is going to be his first real test of what kind of decisions are you making, and if. Chayka was asked too, what if Mats doesn't like one of your ideas? And John said, well, we're not going to do it. So I would think that Mats holds some kind of weight in terms of how this team is going to be constructed going forward.
That's wild. And you're right, because he did say that, but I kind of was like, hold on a second. Let's be honest. Chayka's reporting to Pelly.
Yeah.
So if Mats doesn't like something, this is my call.
Well, he's a senior advisor. He's an advisor.
Yeah. Advisor. Right? So give your advice, right? Give your professional advice as a hockey player. I'm the executive here. I'm the guy that's been under fire as an executive. Not only, the Arizona Coyotes situation was so wild, and with the team, the league owning it, I'm not making excuses for the guy, but it couldn't have been an easy gig.
He didn't do himself any favors.
Not, especially at 26 years old, right? 36 years old. Hopefully, a lot has been learned. But I just think it's interesting because you're right. I'm kind of curious about where Matt stands in this. Is he putting his legacy on the line? It's crazy to think that, yes, he himself said this is the hockey capital of the world. Well, your first executive job is with the team in the hockey capital of the world.
And his legacy is going to be put to the test early because you've got this first draft pick, and for 3 years now, Gavin McKenna has been the essentially undisputed first overall pick. And as soon as the Leafs win this thing, suddenly now, there's this other guy in Sweden who we think should probably be the first pick. Some, are saying, you take the wrong guy. There's the easy choice, right? And I don't know if McKenna's going to be better than this. I can't remember his name.
Ivar.
I don't know who's going to be better, obviously.
I'm all over Ivar.
But I haven't seen him much. But if you don't take the guy who's the obvious choice, who put up 120-something points in his 17-year-old year in junior hockey, and you overthink it, and you end up picking Patrick Laine instead of Austin Matthews. You ask about legacy, there's your legacy right off the bat.
The other thing, too, and this was asked at the news conference, too, is, who does have the final say? And the question was never really answered. It's a collaborative effort. They're both, they get along very fine. And the draft is going to be that first kind of, because Mats Sundin is Swedish, he might be saying, Ivan Stenberg is NHL ready, and he could be that two-way player that is, a top-line guy who can be responsible defensively, a lot more physical. He's more NHL ready right now, but Gavin McKenna is a budding superstar. Is he Mitch Marner 2.0? Do we want that again? Do we want to change how this roster kind of is
Do we
built?
want him to go to San Jose?
Well, yeah. We'll see.
Yeah, well, there is a lot. I think Matt Sundin tried to play that down, but I think there is a lot on the line for him with this one.
Just going back to the Simmons question here, did you find it odd, fellas, that there was at least one national sports network that never, in their sports shows that run overnight, time after time, that this wasn't even, I mean, obviously I touched it on my it was a thing, my top topic for me.
We had it on Morning Live.
You had it on Morning Live as well too. We
Yeah,
just
we
did it again here too. Did you find it odd that one sports station did not even touch it, did not even play any of that sound? It's like that sound that is being played was being played all over North America.
Right.
Did you find that strange?
And why was it not on that network? Maybe because they hold the broadcast rights to the NHL and the Leaf games. This is always the danger of getting too in bed too tightly with the team and with the connection and everything else. And like, there's criticism often, and you hear it often, of the Blue Jays coverage, that like when things are going great, it's fantastic.
Yeah.
But when things are going poorly, are they asking the really hard questions on Sportsnet on the games? I don't know.
I can almost guarantee that there was some kind of directive to say, we're not using that. I wouldn't be surprised.
I'm going to say there probably was. And I thought it interesting, too, where someone like O'Neill on Overdrive kind of ripped into Keith Pelly and in that press conference. And if you go back and find the online versions of Overdrive, which obviously are available to be listened to, parts of it were obviously, anyone that, you don't even have to be in television to hear or radio to realize, oh, that was edited. I find it really interesting. Like, you talk about this, where we are in journalism, and can anyone say anything anymore? Like, we've never been in a time where opinions have been bigger, and look, ESPN is all opinion now, right? Call it hot takes or whatever the case is, but the fact that there's editing and censorship going on.
Yeah.
The danger to that, and it's a real danger, is that we now have YouTube and Twitter and Instagram. There are all kinds of people with their own shows, independent people. And if you, and I don't know if this is what happened, but if you decide that we're going to be the buffer for our golden goose that's laying the golden eggs for us, and we're not going to go hard at them, you know where people are going to go to start watching for their news? Over to the people who will say what actually happened. You got to be real careful when you do this stuff.
Yeah, it's slippery slope.
Guys, you've been awesome. Great topics, great opinions as we talk about opinions right now. Always appreciate it. As I like to do, if people want to read your stuff, consume what you like to put out to the world, where can we find your hard work, Scott Radley?
The Spec.com is where you can find that, and here on Sportsline occasionally.
Do you not do a podcast too?
Do a podcast, yeah. That's at thespec.com as well.
Okay.
Yeah, that's, so it's all there, thespec.com. Sign up today.
And you've got an interesting life coming up in the next couple months. Your right-hand woman is about to change, surprisingly.
Do you have news that I don't know about? What are you referring to?
I'm just talking about a retirement of one of our, one of the greats here at CHCH.
CH Morning Live.
And CH Morning Live is going to undergo some changes coming up soon.
Weekday morning, 6 to 9 or 6 to 10. Annette, June 19th is her last day.
Wow.
She's going to be celebrating her 40th anniversary at CHCH on May 17th, which is phenomenal. What a wonderful legacy, and an awesome human being, and a great journalist, and has carried the torch for many in this community, and has told some awesome stories over all those years. I'll have a new sidekick. And apart from that, Ticats football coming up.
Yes.
You're going to be the sidekick.
I'm the new sidekick.
What a show that would be.
Do we have the inside source on who your new partner could be?
Stay tuned.
All right.
Ticats football coming up.
I'm certainly looking forward to that. Black and gold game. I think that'll be the first time we get to see the guys on the field actually really, really going hard on each other. Obviously, a couple of preseason games against the Argonauts. That always that fun trip to Guelph as well too, which is going to be interesting for the Argonauts as with the World Cup being there. Guelph is going to be their home for a little bit, which should be really, really interesting. Some of those games being played. Again, guys, thanks for joining us. Always a pleasure to have you on the Sportsline Podcast. All right, folks, that's your Sportsline Podcast for the day. You've just seen and heard, we love talking sports, getting down and dirty and deep. If you do know of an athlete, team, or event to promote the Sportsline Podcast, you want to hear from you, please hit that thumbs up, like, and subscribe button. If you have something to say, we always appreciate your fine comments. For the outstanding people that put together the Sportsline Podcast, thank you so very much, and we'll see you really soon.